Hello, I'm Mongezi Makhalima, and my work is to evoke excellence in others. And I work as the chairperson for the Africa Board for Coaching, Consulting, and Coaching Psychology as one of the things that I do. But I also am a supervisor coach. I've been coaching and training coaches since 2007, but I've been coaching since 1997. So I'm excited to be in this conversation today, talking about supervision. Over to you, David.
Hi, I'm David Lane. So I'm a coach and supervisor and also supervise research in coaching and supervision for students globally. I'm again also excited to be in this conversation today because I think the themes we're concerned with are really relevant to the current situation in the world.
Yeah. So what is, I think the kind of work that the kind of conversation we're going to be having relates a lot more to the accounting function of supervision. I mean, we have three: the development piece, we have the support piece, but we want to talk a little bit more about the accounting piece. What are some of the things you want to start highlighting as far as that function?
Okay, so for me, there's four things I think about when paying attention to the management of the whole supervision process. The first thing is how the preparation for a supervision session happens. So thinking about questions is, okay, what is the offer I'm making in this supervision? Or what might the need be of the person I'm supervising? So thinking clearly about that offer before starting. Also thinking clearly about the context. So what determines the purpose of this coaching? Why is it important? Why is it relevant now? What makes it worthwhile? And third, how am I going to contract with the person to ensure that the supervision? So that's kind of preparation for before you even start. Second thing I think about is what's happening when I'm undertaking supervision. So thinking about the structure of it, the style of it, how should it happen? Selecting interventions, how do I choose which interventions to use? And also thinking about, well, what capabilities am I trying to work with the supervisee to enhance and how best to assess that? So that's what I think about while undertaking supervision. Then quite often in supervision, particularly if you are dealing with complex situations, there's the whole process of how do I ensure I maintain the alliance, the working alliance during this, the relationship. So not rather than just thinking about that at the beginning, thinking about it right the way through. How do I maintain the working alliance? Looking at issues of power and diversity, recognizing, I come from a particular position as a white male Western person. How am I thinking about different concepts, different ideas, different perspectives in how they impact and how I think about power and the different ways people can think about power. So paying attention to that, but also paying attention to ruptures. Quite often ruptures will occur in a supervisory relationship. So how do I pay attention to them rather than thinking of ruptures as something is because the person I'm working with is resistant to change? How do I think about those ruptures? And then finally, after a supervision session, really paying attention to, now what can I learn from that session to enhance it? So what ethical issues might have occurred? What am I learning from them? What skills did I use? How did I assess my use of those skills? And then what CPD might I need to do to enhance it? So they're the kind of four things I think about: how you prepare, how you undertake, how you refine the process during it, and how you enhance it following a session.
Yeah, I like your take on it, David, from that perspective, because what I'm getting from it is it makes it quite thorough. Because I think many people don't realize how much work actually goes into supervision in many ways for people to get in.
Yeah. Okay. So what about for you, Mongezi? What kind of things do you think about?
I think over and above what you're saying, I'm continuously aware that particularly when it comes to the accounting function, it's not the favorite work that coaches want to do. So what I've realized is that two things are really affecting that. One, people don't really know what it is exactly, don't know what supervision is, and that, which is why I value how you framed it now, because people start realizing that it's not really about as a supervisor coach lording over you and telling you what to do and checking your work, the whole traditional belief around supervision. So I think that's the first thing. But the second thing, I find that many people, there's an ego that comes with it for many coaches, which is the whole idea that says, well, I have gotten to where I have gotten to. What gives you the right to tell me?
Yes.
Really, this is really a way of being accountable, not to us. And that's for me the preparation and the clarity that I continuously make with many people who come to supervision, to say, you're not accounting to us, you're accounting to yourself on behalf of the client. And it's important for coaches to be aware that the accounting function of supervision is not really about the coach or the supervisor. It's about the client and making sure that the client gets the value they've signed up for.
Yeah, I particularly like that emphasis you place there on actually it's not accounting for us, it's accounting for the supervisor, but in particular back to the client. That's where the accounting comes in. I think that's really a strong perspective.
Yeah, let's move on into so what should now people know about this as we start wrapping up? What are the other things you need to be?
Okay. I think for me, that one of the kind of things that often comes up is not paying adequate attention to potential resistances, or treating resistances as if there's something within the client that needs to be challenged, rather than seeing resistances as something they're unsure about, something that they're finding difficult, or something in you as supervisor which is creating those difficulties. So thinking about resistance as feedback. If the resistance, you don't challenge it, you think, okay, let me be curious. What's causing this? What feedback am I getting from this, and how far I kind of deal with it? But also, I think if you fail to pay attention to resistance, you get a rupture. So, you can prevent a rupture by paying attention. But what happens when you get a rupture? Again, it's about not kind of challenging the client. It's saying, okay, the collaborative relationship has broken down. How by resolving the rupture, do I rebuild the collaborative relationship? So you focus not on, so you focus on trying to de-escalate it, depolarize it, focus on this is us trying to solve this problem, rather than it's about you or me.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think but you've covered quite a bit there. I think maybe the big piece I want to wrap up with in this conversation is really about how this can be particularly important for the world, because in this process of supervision for global change, imagine if people were holding themselves accountable to the kind of work they need to be doing in impacting people to think differently, act differently, and be different. And I think for me, the value of supervision for global change, which is this project that we're busy with, I think the value for it is around how it can symbolize or even be an example to how we hold ourselves accountable as leaders for leadership and leading the world in this instance. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Absolutely. I think there's a number of important things you raised there. I mean, first is that actually too often we think of supervision in a very narrow context. You're looking at the individual. You're not looking at, okay, what are the factors out there in the environment, in the world, which are actually really going to impact that I need to be paying attention to? And it's a legitimate question to ask. Some people say, well, actually, you should be following the client's agenda. Yes, but the client's agenda is based on the context in which the world is changing. And therefore, you have to open their eyes to that, the fact the world is changing. The second thing I think is, and something we've talked about before, actually too much of the way we think about supervision is based in very Western, male-dominated theoretical frameworks. And it's not really addressing broader ways of seeing the world. And actually, if you really going to deal with global issues, you have to pay attention to global perspectives, not just your own individual perspective.
Yeah. And I'm really excited. We run out of time for this kind of conversation, but I'm hoping to you as the person that's paying attention, or the observer, the audience that's watching this, you've gotten some value in it, but continue to join us on LinkedIn, Supervision for Global Change, as we continue some of these conversations to make sure that we use what we know to make the world a better place.
Great. Thanks, Mongezi.
Ciao.
Enjoyed talking to you. Bye.